Personal retreats are a great way to get clarity and momentum as you think about the next quarter, but they're more effective when you can 1, get away from the places that you normally go, and 2, get out into nature. Well, with a visit to a getaway house, you can do both without breaking the bank. Now, before we get to the getaway house though, let me briefly explain this personal retreat idea. A personal retreat is where you get away to a solitary place just to think about things, with the goal of gaining clarity and motivation so you can complete your goals when you return. Now, during a personal retreat, you reflect on what went well, what could have gone better, and then you decide what your goals and objectives are going to be for the next 90 days. It's loosely based off of the 12-week year, and the place that you go for your personal retreat could be a cabin in the woods, an Airbnb, a hotel room. The important thing is not the actual physical location. It's just that you're able to devote the time and attention away from a place that you regularly go so your brain can make sense of things. Now, one of the reasons that a personal retreat is so powerful is that it completely breaks you from the normal routine. It's impossible to gain the clarity that you need in the busyness of your normal day-to-day. Now, through solitary time and reflection, a personal retreat can help you bring clarity, perspective, and motivation that you need to follow through and actually achieve your goals by taking action on the things that are truly important to you. When you disconnect from your busy schedule, you can take a step back and you can examine your life with fresh eyes. And doing so can help you to understand your priorities and goals better and enable you to anchor those to your vision and your values. And this creates that intrinsic motivation that you need to show up every day, take consistent action that's required to create meaningful change, and it brings clarity to your decision-making process. Now, if you're gonna do a personal retreat, there's a couple of keys to making it work. First, you have to have the right environment. Your surroundings should be conducive to deep thinking and focus, so you need to eliminate all the novel distractions, cut out all the dopamine, cut out all the clutter, so your brain can really wrestle through everything. Now, second, you have to have enough time to get to the bottom of things. So while my personal retreat process usually takes about 8 hours total, I recommend you get away overnight if you can. The extra time absolutely pays off, especially when you get to the retrospective, where you ask questions like, what should I start doing, what should I stop doing, and what should I keep doing? Now, the Getaway House gives you both of these things. If you go with the sole intention of doing a personal retreat, it provides the perfect atmosphere for reflection, and a night away is just about the perfect time frame to really spend some quality thinking time. The outposts are easy to get to, provided that there's one near you, and if you can get away during the week, you can probably find one pretty cheap. I first came across the Getaway House idea from a friend who told me that he had been to one in the Kansas City area. I thought it sounded like a great place to go for a personal retreat, but I was honestly pretty surprised to find an outpost near my home in northeast Wisconsin. They're kind of positioned as places to get out into nature for people who live in big cities and they want to get away. Now, some of the other outposts are places like Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, New York. So the one in Wisconsin is actually listed as Milwaukee, which is a couple of hours from where I live. But when I looked up the actual location, I saw that it's only about a 30-minute drive to get there. Now, while prices vary depending on the location and the subsequent demand, after applying a coupon code that I found online, they turned out to be very reasonably priced, and I booked my first getaway for about $100 US. Now, a getaway house is basically a tiny cabin that's parked on a powered campsite somewhere in the woods. Each campsite has a fire pit with a grilling grate, a picnic table, a couple of chairs, and electricity which powers the tiny cabin trailer parked on the site. What I like about these campsites is that they are positioned so that you don't see any of the other getaway cabins. I've stayed at 3 separate sites now, and each one has the campsite set up so you're facing the woods and you're not looking at your neighbor. While you will occasionally hear others around you, you often won't see them unless you decide to leave your campsite. The tiny cabins themselves are very nice. They include heating and air conditioning, which makes them a pleasant temperature no matter when you choose to visit. When you walk in, there's a table and chair, a small kitchen with a mini fridge, sink, and electric stovetop in front of you, and a queen-size platform bed to your left. There's a small window at the foot of the bed that overlooks the rest of your campsite, and a large window at the end of the cabin that looks out into the woods. Each cabin also has a private bathroom with a toilet and shower, and everything that you need is provided. Towels, linens, even a gooseneck kettle for coffee and tea, and everything that you need to prepare your meals. There's also a lantern, books, cards, an activity booklet, and firewood and fire starter are stored outside and available for purchase. Now, the one thing that you won't find in your tiny cabin is Wi-Fi. In fact, there's a wooden cell phone lockbox that you're encouraged to put your phone in until the time of your departure. Some of the locations are fairly remote, so in the reminder text that gets sent the day before, the Getaway team actually encourages you to download the map of your location just in case you need it and there isn't cell phone coverage in the area. Now, if you want to prepare your own meals during your getaway, the small kitchen comes well equipped for you to do so. There's also a small collection of coffee and tea that's pre-stocked and available for a small fee, and you can pre-order a sustenance box online that has oatmeal, pasta, and snacks. It'll be there when you get there for an extra $35. Now, what drew me to the Getaway House concept is that I thought it would be the perfect place to do a personal retreat, and it didn't disappoint. I checked in shortly after 3 p.m. and I stayed until checkout the next morning at 11. You can get an early check-in or late checkout, but I figured that was more than enough time for me to follow my 8-hour personal retreat process if I broke it up, so that's exactly what I did. I brought my MacBook Pro along because I wanted to do my personal retreat in Obsidian, but because I couldn't connect it to the internet if I wanted to, I had no trouble avoiding other digital distractions. Now, if you're curious about my personal retreat process, I've got a separate video where I walk through exactly what I do in Obsidian, and I even provide a template if you want to try it for yourself. You can download that template. The link is in the description for this video. Now, in my opinion, the setting of the Getaway House is the perfect place for your next personal retreat. It's much quieter than other campsites that I've been to, and they actually charge fines if you make a lot of noise. And getting out into nature is the perfect setting for extended thinking time. It's hard to think of a better setting for contemplating your future than sitting by a campfire alone in the middle of the woods. I absolutely loved my time at the Getaway House. Now, at the outpost I visited, there's also a nature trail that's a little less than a mile long. The location is actually on an old Boy Scout camp, so as the trail goes through the woods, it ends up in a clearing with several old buildings that the Scouts used to use, including a cabin with a fieldstone fireplace, a capped well, and a building with signage on it which calls it the Forge. It's kind of a cool little discovery at the end of the trail, which I enjoyed walking each time that I've visited that location. Overall, if you can't tell, I'm a big fan of my Getaway House experience. Now, I know the pricing can vary greatly depending on where and when you go, but if you have a little flexibility in your schedule and you can squeeze out a trip during the week, you can probably find one pretty reasonably priced. I've long advocated for getting out of your normal location when you do a personal retreat, and a Getaway House is a much better setting for that than a hotel room or a random Airbnb, in my opinion. If there happens to be an outpost near you, I highly recommend that you check it out for your next personal retreat. And if you're going to use Obsidian to do your next personal retreat, then check out my free personal retreat template. There's a link below this video to download it, and there's an explainer video which walks you through how to use it.